from 1996, Taliban, the students' militia, which was translated into English. So Taliban started and they formed the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, and they were ruling the Afghanistan. So who were at the back of the Taliban? Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and US was believed or suspected to be. And now let us study, let us discuss and analyze how the Taliban government ruled. We should not call it as a government because it was taken by force. There was no people's mandate in Afghanistan, sir. Even till 96, even after 96 also, there was no, even once they never had an election. People never had an option to choose their leaders. That was the face of the people, sir. So Taliban, when came to power in 1996, for the first 2 years, they took a lot of unchanges, an activity of unchanging. That means whatever the changes established by the previous PDPA government, the socialist government, which is pro-Soviet Union, they unchanged everything. They changed everything. They changed all of them, and they started slowly taking Afghanistan's belief system and Afghanistan's people's personal life into their hands. So why? The question comes here. So now the first question was answered. Who are Talibans? Talibans are the student militia who waged a civil war against the PDPA government, the Mujahideen governments, which was unstable. So they wanted to give a stable government, but with Islamic Sharia law. Now let us discuss how Taliban's rule was there. What was Sharia law and how it affects the people, different people in different ways. First, let us discuss about the women, the condition of women under the Taliban rule. So first, this harsh interpretation of Sharia says, that means Taliban says like that because they are ideologically brainwashed by Islamic madrasas of Pakistan. They are ideologically completely brainwashed. They are even ready to die for their Islam ideology. That was the hijacking concentration of their minds. Their minds were completely hijacked by an ideology of Islamic extremism. So in Sharia law, Taliban says, they interpret Sharia law as women should always maintain the modesty. Modesty here means they should not expose to out. First of all, they have to wear burqa. Entire body of the women should be covered with burqa. And entire body should be covered. Except the eyes, that too from a net-like structure. I don't know what it is called as. But women were to be completely covered. First thing. And another thing was, women are not allowed on the streets or the public places without a male companion or a male relative. That's true. The male should be the relative of the women. So a woman should not come out without a male relative. This was the condition. So let me tell you one incident under the Taliban rule. What happened was, the name of the women was like Sahil or something like that. I forgot. But that woman once found on the public place with a male person who was not a relative, who was not an immediate relative of that woman. So Taliban police, they also have religious police. So Taliban police, they captured that woman and they asked who was he, and she said something, maybe friend or like that, I don't know. But this was the story. You just understand the crux. So when she says that he is unrelated to her, these Talibans conducted an open religious court. They have gathered all the people of that particular locality into a stadium, and in the center of the stadium that woman was seated, and they had given huge blows. The woman was beaten to death. The women was beaten to death by the stones. The women was beaten to death by the what do you call, the whip. So she was beaten to death, and through that action, they wanted to say to the people that never ever a woman should come out with a unrelated man. So she was completely, she was beaten to death. And in another instance, where a woman was found to have an illegal affair with some extramarital affair with some other male, she was taken to the public place, to the crossroads of the particular locality, and there, with the husband itself, they ordered the husband of that woman to, shoot the woman with the gun. In front of everyone, she was shot dead. And under the Sharia law, women were not allowed to study. Women were not allowed to study. And women are not allowed to work in public employment, public structure, public government structure. Not only government, in everywhere, women should not work in employment. They are to be confined to the home. They can do inside home, but they should not come out. And if you see the men of the society, under the Taliban rule, they had to grow the beard. They had to grow. If they did not grow the beard, they were to be beheaded by the Taliban as a symbolic punishment to the society. They were to be beheaded. And Talibans, under the Sharia law, they interpreted that the faces should not be picturized. Faces of the humans should not be picturized on the walls, on the papers, and everywhere. Faces should not come. For that reason, that means they believe idolatry is a sin. Islam never believes in idolatry. That means image worshipping. Allah, that's the reason Allah never had a shape or idol. So that is a harsh interpretation. They even extended it to the personal lives of the people. And with that reason, complete televisions were shut down in the country under Taliban rule. Television, why? Because it shows the faces of the people. And even Talibans under the Sharia law, they said people should not even listen. There was no TV, and people should not even listen music, because they do believe that music leads one to an erotic mood. Music will lead the men or the women to an erotic mood. They believe so. So that was against the Islamic Sharia, what they say. And that's the reason they banned the complete musical instruments under the Taliban rule. They banned the televisions. And even, sir, by 1996, there was internet in all the other countries. They banned completely the internet also. People should never have any entertainment, these television, mobile phones, internets, etc. So this was the harsh interpretation of the Taliban rule, and that was the reason people fear, people scare. Especially to say women. The condition of the women was too low, too degraded in the Taliban. Just a 5-year period, from 96 to 2001 they ruled. So this is about the Taliban's harsh interpretation of the Sharia law. Why they are rejected by the people, world society even, because of that. And there is another incident I have to tell to you here, that when Taliban came to power, 96, so 97, in the 97 itself, normally society just don't be idle. So against this Taliban's oppressive rule, harsh interpretation of the Sharia law, again from the northern section, because Taliban made the Kandahar city as their capital city. Why? Because Taliban, they started the movement from southern Afghanistan, the mountainous region. So that mountainous region facilitated the Taliban to wage a guerrilla warfare. That's why Kandahar city, which is in the southern section of the southern part of the Afghanistan, they made that Kandahar city as the capital city of the Afghanistan under Taliban rule. Now, in the 97, when the Taliban's capital city was Kandahar and they were ruling almost entire Afghanistan, in the further northernmost country of Afghanistan, From there arose an anti-Taliban alliance, political alliance, and that was called as Northern Alliance in 97. Northern Alliance was too strong. It was formed by two persons, two important persons. One was Muhammad Masur, and another one was Dostam. These two are very important people who fought against the Taliban, sir, under the banner, under the political organization Northern Alliance. These two are Muhammad Masur and Dostam. Now, in 97, they formed Northern Alliance just 1 year after the Taliban came to power. So now there was a fight between Northern Alliance and the Taliban. So in the northern part of the Afghanistan, there was a city called as Meher-e-Sharif. So in that city, there was a huge battle between Northern Alliance, which is anti-Taliban front, and the Taliban. Actually, these Dostam forces, which were led by Northern Alliance, was led by Dostam. So these Dostam forces were capable enough to dethrone the Taliban, but Taliban defeated the Northern Alliance to their roots. Why? How it was possible? It was possible because at that time, in the 97, the chief army staff of the Pakistan, that was Pervez Musharraf. He was the chief army staff, and when Taliban was under threat from this Northern Alliance, they were getting resistance from Northern Alliance. Taliban requested Pakistan chief army staff, Pervez Musharraf, and he sent thousands of Pakistani soldiers and Pakistanis, even the Pakistani, not soldiers but illegally trained people, in support of the Taliban in the battle of Meher-e-Sharif. Because of the Pakistan's Pervez Musharraf support, Pakistan's military support, Taliban could defeat the Northern Alliance in 97. Now, in this period, in the 98, in the 97 and in the 98, what was happening in the India? In India, for the second time, the Atal Bihari Vajpayee has come into power. The NDA has come into power. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister of our country in 98-99 period. But at that particular period, when Taliban came to power in 96, from 96 to 98, there was a huge unrest exist in the Kashmir region. Because why? In the Kashmir region, they are fully dominated by Muslim population, Kashmir. So normally Taliban, Islamic radicalism, extremism, so they used to, with the support of the Pakistan, they used to influence the region, and they wanted this region to be unrest. So because of these situations, there were three important terrorists which the intelligence officers, the spy and raw officers of the India who are present in the Kashmir, they caught three important terrorists in around 97-98 period. Three important terrorists, and one among them was Masood Azhar. Sir, very important person, Masood Azhar. He was the reason in the latter times for many attacks on India, terrorist attacks. I'll tell you what actually happened. So in 97-98, in the Kashmir jail, these three terrorists were kept in the Kashmiri jails, the local authority. So Masood Azhar along with two other terrorists, very important main leaders of terrorist organizations. So our intelligence officers and police officers of Kashmir, they caught these three people and they were kept in the Kashmir jails. They were from Pakistan. Masood Azhar belongs to Pakistan and other two terrorists belongs to Pakistan. So Pervez Musharraf wanted his because they were supporting the terrorism Pakistan. So they wanted these terrorists to be if not the government, that is the Pervez Musharraf, but the terrorist organizations which were led by Masood Azhar, the Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, they are the organizations. So the commanders of those terrorists of these organizations, wanted these three people, to be out of the jail. So the terrorists of the Pakistan who are working on the ground of Pakistan, they had a plan to release these terrorists, and they conspired a terrorist hijacking plan. What they did, so let us see the sequence of events. What happened in 1999 we are speaking about. In 1999, in Afghanistan, Taliban was in power. In Pakistan, Pervez Musharraf was in power. He militarily couped against the civilian government. He couped it, and he became the president, the military head of the. He established the military Pakistan. So under the head of the Pervez Musharraf, with the active support of this Pakistan's military to the terrorist organizations to operate against the enemy countries. So these terrorists, around four terrorists of these different organizations, they had a plan, and they, wanted to do a terrorist attack to make a demand to release these three terrorists. This was the objective of them. So how did they execute it? On the December 23rd of the 1999. Now the story goes like this. In the December 23, 1999, that means just 2 days before the Christmas festival. 2 days before the Christmas festival. So now, from the Nepal, in Nepal we have a Tribhuvan International Airport. From the Kathmandu, that is the capital city of Nepal, our Air India flight, and the name of the Air India flight was Air India IC-814. This is the name of the flight, Airbus. So from Tribhuvan International Airport of the Kathmandu, an aeroplane was started. It took off from there, and its destiny was to reach the Indira Gandhi International Airport of Delhi. So that was the destiny. Around there were 126 people boarded on the plane. Now the plane took off from the Tribhuvan International Airport. Once the aeroplane entered into the airspace of the India, there are 4 people inside the plane. They stood up. They have masked their faces, and they have taken out their weapons like a revolver and some sharp blades and sharp swords along with the revolvers, and they shouted at the people that IC-814 Indian aeroplane has been hijacked. Yes, you all are hijacked. We are terrorists, and we are going to bomb this, and we are going to die along with you also if you do not cooperate. This was the announcement given by the 4 terrorists of this particular organizations. Now one of these 4 terrorists went into the chamber of the the pilots, and they went and they point blankly they said to the one of the captain of the Airbus, they said to him, that means you here means your plane IC-814 is hijacked, and from now on if you do not operate on our guidelines, if you do not drive the airplane wherever we want, the complete plane is going to be crashed. Along with you, we are also ready to die. And they have shown the bombs which they have towards their wrist. Not the wrist, waist. Now the captain of the Airbus IC-814 understood the situation. He did not react on the moment. He just was silent, he was calm, and he understood that the airplane was hijacked. And now he asked the terrorists what I have to do now? Then the terrorists said to him that you have to travel towards the west of the Delhi airport. That means you have to travel west. West means towards the Pakistan and towards Dubai, etc. This was the movement. So towards the west they have given the directions, but on understanding that maybe perhaps this is because of the Pakistan, the captain replied to the people, the terrorists, that no, I cannot go back, I cannot go out of the Indian airspace. You can tell me, you can guide me to go wherever you want within the airspace of India. We have the only permissions to airspace of India. We have no permissions to enter into the Pakistani or some other western towards the west, the airspaces. This is what the captain of the Airbus IC-814 replied to the terrorist. And then the terrorist said that no, you should not stop inside India. You must have to cross the Indian airlines, Indian airspace, and you have to enter the Pakistani airspace. This is what they said, but the captain denied it, and he now had a thought in his mind. Captain has a thought. He has an idea, not an idea, just to they are trained, well-trained people. So now he replied to the terrorist to that look, this aeroplane has no fuel to go beyond India. Because our destiny was only Delhi airport, we had not enough fuel to go towards the west. This is what the reply he has given. Now terrorists have no option but to land somewhere in the India itself. Now they asked him, see, if not Delhi, where you can refuel this aeroplane IC-814? This is what the terrorists asked. And he replied, perhaps in Bombay airport or perhaps in Ahmedabad airport. He was very clearly knew, that captain, that Bombay airport was, Ahmedabad airport was in Gujarat, and Gujarat was BJP ruled state. That means not the politics here, but Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government was BJP, and if the flight he can able to land it in the Ahmedabad, he thought he would get a very strong support from the Indian government so that they can be rescued. He thought, and he given that Ahmedabad or Mumbai. He gave two options. But the terrorists denied that. And very cleverly, terrorists said, if you can go till Ahmedabad from Delhi, if you can go till Bombay, why cannot you go to the Lahore? Because Lahore is too less distance from Ahmedabad and Bombay. So the terrorists said that no, you should not go to the Ahmedabad or somewhere. You have to go to Lahore. In Lahore, we can refuel the aeroplane. This is what the terrorists said. But again, very clearly, what the captain of the IC-814 said was, no, we cannot go. We cannot enter into the Lahore because we have no permissions there. But if you permit me, I can, give a message to the Amritsar airport, which was in the present India's Punjab. So I can land in Amritsar so that we can refuel. Because entering Lahore, even till Lahore, it cannot go. It may go up to Amritsar. This is what the captain said. Now, without any option, terrorists agreed to that. They agreed to that, and before they reach the Punjab itself, the captain has sent to the ATC, that is the Air Terminal Communication or the Commander, Air Traffic Control Committee of the Airports, Administration, Technical Administrative Airport System Management. They have sent the message. The captain sent, we are hijacked and we are forcibly being landed in, going to be landed in Amritsar. So please rescue us all. This is what the message that the captain sent to the Pakistani India's ATC and also to the Punjab airport authorities. He sent that message. But even till then, the Atal Bihari Vajpayee was not informed about this incident, and the plane came and landed in the Amritsar IC-814. Now he was very sure, the captain of the aeroplane was very sure that perhaps the Punjab government and the Punjab military forces, Indian military forces would come and rescue them. But did you know what happened? The forces had not come. Indian military forces had not come. Yes, the police forces, local police forces tried to reach out the airport, but there were some instructions from higher officials of the India, from the National Security Office. Some instructions that no, let us not do a combat on the aeroplane because it may prove counter active. There is no, because perhaps there was a huge criticism that maybe because of the change in government in the Pakistan, in the Punjab there was a different government, in the nation there was a different government. Perhaps that was the reason lot many people thought. So in the Amritsar, purposefully, captain was delayed the takeoff of the plane. He was purposefully delayed for 45 minutes. He could able to not take off from Amritsar. So this purposeful delay, terrorists were they recognized this purposeful delay, and upon understanding that there may be some operation is going to happen on them, they again put the gun to the captain's point blankly, and they dictated him to take off immediately. If not, you and we, everyone will smash here. This is what the terrorists said, and with no other options. After 45 minutes itself, also the Indian government could not able to rescue. So with no hope and with no, helplessly, the captain has sent to the Indian Airport Authority a message, a very last heart-touching message, that inside the quotes he sent the message, we all are dying. We all are dying. And the moment they kept the revolver, the plane took off from Amritsar. It entered into the Pakistani airspace. And once the plane took off, then the commanders came. The military operation combating commanders came. The hijacking rescue team has come. But too late. So already the plane took off from there. From Amritsar, they entered into the Lahore, Pakistani airspace. The moment it entered, the signals will go to the Pakistani air traffic control. So now this information, the hijacking information went to the Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the Prime Minister of the India, and Atal Bihari Vajpayee informed the government of the Pakistan, that is the Pervez Musharraf, to allow the plane to land in the Lahore, and he requested him to capture the terrorists and please help in this anti-hijacking operation, and to please let the people come out of this, let the people be safe. This is what the request that Atal Bihari Vajpayee gave to the Pervez Musharraf. But purposefully, if you see purposefully, the Pakistani government denied the permission to land in the Lahore. They denied the permission. So for some time, for some time it was just revolving on the outskirts of the Lahore airport. But then the terrorists again very purposefully said to land in the Lahore. But the Pakistani government was not allowing it. Then the captain decided to at least crash the aeroplane on the runway of the Lahore itself without any permission. So when he was going to do that, the airport authorities understood that anyways they are going to come and crash the runway. So let's not make it a disaster. Let's make it at least a hijacking. So they have given the permissions to land in the Lahore. Now the IC-814 Indian aeroplane landed in the Lahore. And from there, the Pakistani airplane could not able to, Pakistani government had done nothing to ensure the safety of the people of Indians. And from there again the IC-814 took off, and it went to the Dubai, United Arab Emirates. It went to the Dubai, and in the Dubai airport, upon the international pressure and upon the Indian request to the United Arab Emirates government, this hijacked plane which landed in the Dubai, they let out only the women and children. There are almost 20 to 25 people. They were let out, and just before to that, one of the civilian was injured too badly with the swords by the terrorists, and his dead body, he was also dead by the time of landing in the Dubai, and his body, one fatal incident in this till then. So that dead body was also let out along with the women and the children. They let out on the request of the Indian government to the Saudi Arabian people, and on the pressure of Saudi Arabian people, terrorists let out the women and the children. Now from there, again refueling happened, and IC-814 took off from there, and it went towards the Kandahar, the ultimate destination which they planned. Kandahar, where it is? It is in Taliban's Afghanistan. So this happened by 25th and 26th, on the day of the Christmas, and on the day of just after that, The IC-814 landed in Kandahar. There were 4 terrorists. Now, the problem here is that once in 96 when Taliban came to power forcefully, Indian government did not recognize it as a government. There was no official diplomatic relations or line of communications between Indian diplomatic authorities and Taliban. So now India was in dilemma, because if it is in Pakistan, it can do something by pressurizing internationally. But if it is in Taliban's area, Kandahar, we cannot do anything. So now, for the first time now, you might have listened the name National Security Advisor, the Ajit Doval. So along with the headship of this Ajit Doval, there were 3 other IFS officers. So with a team of 3 to 4, Ajit Doval, landed in the Kandahar, and he has informed there what was happening there to the Indian government. And if you see, once this IC-814 along with the terrorists landed in the Kandahar airport, Taliban's reaction was, Indian government has sent a request to the Taliban to capture the terrorists and to let the civilians out, to ensure the safety of the civilians of India. This was the request from the Indian government for the first time. Then the commanders of the Taliban just rushed to the Kandahar airport, and they surrounded the aeroplane, that is Indian airline IC-814, which contains the 126 civilians of the India. So Indian government was requesting to send back the airplane to ensure the safety of the people. But Taliban government are saying it is not, we don't believe that these are terrorists, and even they are also saying that we are going to give enough protection to the civilians, and they've kept the plane there for almost around 5 days. For 5 days, there was a fact which was written even in everywhere when you study about this, that was the very huge winter period in Afghanistan, December 26-27 time period. There was a very severe winter was there. The temperature in the southern portion, especially that was the mountainous regions, Kandahar is in the southern portion of the Afghanistan, so temperatures were negative. And in that huge negative temperature environmental conditions, did you know what the captain of the Indian Airbus, what he has done? He has kept for the 5 days the engine of the aeroplane on, so that it would be warm inside the airplane and the people would be at least surviving. That was the captain of our Indian Airbus IC-814 has done. For 5 days the engine of the airplane was only switched on, it never off, because people cannot sustain that temperatures, that cold temperatures, negative temperatures. Even Taliban could not give a proper shelter to the people, civilians. And they said to the world in the media that they are providing proper meals, they are providing proper entertainment to the people till the discussion, until the talks over between the terrorists and the demands, etc. So we are providing enough safety, enough, etc. This is what the media briefings of Taliban were in 26-27 December 1999. And by understanding the situation, once the Ajit Doval entered the Afghanistan, Kandahar, with his spy team, he could recognize that, a very shocking news, that actually Taliban were so ruthless because towards even India, because they were backed by the terrorists of those who hijacked that were backed by, even the Taliban was backed by ISIS. ISIS is a terrorist organization involved in this. They are also backing and giving support to the Taliban. So if Ajit Doval once even said, if ISIS was not involved at the back of this Taliban, India would have smashed the Taliban and get back our people. But because ISIS was involved, Ajit Doval, even Indian government stopped taking an immediate action on Taliban. So they started, by understanding that ISIS was backing this hijack, Indian government, the diplomats started negotiations. They have given a statement that what the terrorists want from us to do, what are their demands. Then before the terrorist has passed a statement, their demands, they have said around 36 people names. 36 people, terrorist names, who were in the jails of the India, and they ordered to release them first in order to release the civilians in exchange of that. 36 very huge recorded terrorists, including Masood Azhar and the two people, the names I don't know, but two other Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, leaders. So Indian government could not able to, accept that. Could not able to accept that, because 36 terrorists, if they were out, they will plan a huge terrorist activities again in the India. So Indian government first thought not to do that. But a strong negotiating capacity we have, our Indian diplomats have that. So because of the goodwill that even we have over the United Nations and all the world nations, we have some negotiating favor. So that number we could able to reduce it to 3. So they demanded 36 people to be released, but Indian government accepted to release 3 people. And the last 3 finalized names the terrorists gave were Masood Azhar and other 2 terrorists who were in the Kashmir jails. So there was a huge opposition in the India. If Masood Azhar, who was the head of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, if he was let out, then he will plan a lot of secessionist activities in the Kashmir, terrorist activities in the Kashmir. It would be a huge havoc with the support of Taliban. So the opposition in the India was criticizing the government to not take a rush decision. But without any choice, Indian government, that is Atal Bihari Vajpayee government, accepted to release 3 terrorists, Masood Azhar and other 2 terrorists who are in the Kashmiri jails, in assurance of ensuring the safety of the civilians of India. And once the 3 terrorists, Masood Azhar and other 2 terrorists, were released out from Kashmir, then the Ajit Doval, this team went to the our people. They reached out to them, and then the Airbus was, with the guidance of them, the Airbus IC-814 flew back from there and landed in Gujarat, Ahmedabad. So if you see the entire scenario, that Taliban, once they had come into power, all the terrorist organizations who are there in the world, they would get an inspiration from this, because they came to power with force. So everyone who are trying to do terrorist activities will think that only force is the means to get power. Only gun is the way to, gun is the ladder to the seat of the power. This inspiration would be there if Taliban has given legitimate recognition by the world powers. So this incident was very fresh in our mind, even Indian mind. At that moment, when those terrorists were released out, it proved to counteractively. I'll tell you what happened after that. So this was the incident happened in the 1999. Now, so Indian government was not happy with Taliban. So now Indian government, it was like a moral lost. We morally lost to Taliban's, their terrorism, and even Pakistan's terrorism. There was a nexus between Pakistan and Taliban. We could come to know by that incident, Kandahar, IC-814 hijack. So 99 was done, and in the 2000. If you see, by 2000, as I have said, in the northern portion of the Afghanistan, Northern Alliance was formed against the anti-Taliban. Once they were always defeated with the support of Pakistan soldiers to the side of the Taliban. But still, by 2000, if you see, 10% of the Afghanistan was in the hands of Northern Alliance, and 90% of the land was in the hand of the Afghanistan. The next year, 2001, is a history-changing year. In the 2001, if you see, September 9th, 2001, as I have said, this Northern Alliance, which was an anti-Taliban front, was formed by 2 people. One was Muhammad Masood and another one was Dostam. So yes, they were defeated. That doesn't mean they were killed, but they are still alive. On September 9th, 2001, there was a revenge killing by Taliban. Taliban has killed one of the main leader of Northern Alliance, that is Muhammad Masood. he was assassinated by the Taliban on 9th September 2001. And just 2 days after that, sir, a very historical moment happened, a historical black day. That was on 11th September 2001. A terrorist organization called Al-Qaeda, which took shelter in both Pakistan and Taliban, and who are operating from the soil of the Afghanistan, that is under the Taliban's rule. Al-Qaeda, under the leadership of Osama bin Laden, on 11th September 2001, around 12 to 15 terrorists hijacked two planes of the two planes which are going to the United States of America's New York City. And in the New York City, they hijacked, once they entered into New York airspace, these 15 terrorists, just as they hijacked our Indian IC-814 just 3 years before. In the same way, Al-Qaeda under Osama bin Laden, 15 terrorists hijacked two planes and they redirected it to collide with the World Trade Organization towers, that is we call them as twin towers, which host the World Trade Organization. So first, a very big terrorist organization huge terrorist attack on the America, a country like United States of America, the so-called superpower of the America. So America was too furious against the terrorist organization Al-Qaeda, and it conducted an investigation, very fast investigation, and they found the Osama bin Laden was actually the prime suspect. He was in the Afghanistan. So America, United States, in September itself, sent a notice to the statement to the Taliban government, the so-called government. It is not a government. So to the Taliban, they sent a message to hand over the Osama bin Laden to United States. Did you know what the Taliban did respond? Once Taliban were actually funded by US, don't forget it. Taliban was raised by US with the funds of the US through the ISI. But now the Taliban replied to United States of America that, show me the evidence. How can you say Osama bin Laden is in our country? No, this is a baseless argument. This is what they said. America got, it understood the real face of the Taliban, which was the brainchild of the US itself, Pakistan itself. So America, in just 1 month, in the October 2001, America along with the NATO forces, North Atlantic Treaty Organization forces, these are the capitalist countries' military forces. So United States along with NATO, they invaded the Afghanistan. Completely they came with their military power, with their military prowess. America entered the Afghanistan in 2001 of October, and within 2 months, November and December, by December 2001, in 2 months, United Kingdom and United States of America and NATO allies, all these have bombarded the Al-Qaeda camps throughout Afghanistan, and within 2 months, by December 2001, Taliban government was overthrown. It was completely overthrown, and Talibans were, they ran away by not, they are not able to see. This is the power of the US. They cannot do a war with a country like US and NATO forces. So Talibans were just shattered. And in the 2002, just after that, the United States has kept an interim government, has formed an interim government with a person, Afghani leader, and his name was Hamid Karzai. So Hamid Karzai, under the leadership of him, United States and all the military supported him, and they established an interim government, that is democratic government, in 2001. But Hamid Karzai, he alone cannot do. He needs military support of US and all, because Taliban were supported by Pakistan. So America thought to support Hamid Karzai for some time, till the nation improves, till the nation building happens, till the democratic structure deep roots. So America and NATO forces kept there, not only they, but United States has a very veto power in the UNSC, United States, United Nations Security Council, UNSC. So UNSC, United Nations sent peacekeeping force, not peacekeeping force, but International Security Assistance Force. That was sent to support the government of the Hamid Karzai. So almost by 2000, if you see within 2 years, the troops were increased to almost 1 lakh American troops were there in Afghanistan to support the Hamid Karzai government, democratic government. And once the Taliban were shattered in 2001 October, they went back again to the forest, the mountain areas of the southern Afghanistan, and they entered into Pakistan territory. Pakistan gave shelter to the shattered Afghanistan Talibans, and they entered into Pakistan. And from 2002 to around 2004, they regrouped themselves. The regrouping of Taliban happened in Pakistan. By 2004, if you see, the Hamid Karzai started constructing democratic structures. He was to unite the people. He was, uniting the people in the name of nationalism. So Afghanistan nation building process was happening. So by 2004, this was the condition in Afghanistan. But Taliban went to the shelter of Pakistan and started regrouping there. By 2004, when Hamid Karzai started parliamentary structure, MPs, etc., so the democratic structure, Taliban started insurgency operations. Insurgency means to overthrow the own government. If you see, the government was supported by not only US but every foreign donors started, in the inflow of foreign investment started in Afghanistan, because everyone viewed that if Afghanistan was developed, if Afghan people's life was developed to some extent, then they thought that terrorism would decline. If people were tasted the freedom, if people tasted the education, then perhaps terrorism would decline. This was the idea of every country. So every country started investing there. Some countries started creating educational schools. Some countries started creating public roads. Some countries are offering some other, but developmental work was started by 2004. But everything was under the eyes of United States and NATO's military power, because they were always there to support the Hamid Karzai government. But what Taliban was doing at the same time, they were trying insurgency operations. So let me tell you one thing. Despite they were completely shattered from the Kandahar, the capital city, still in the rural areas, to some extent, they still have their power, their influence in the most remotest parts of the Afghanistan. So they had some 10 to 15% land holdings, not land holdings, power. They have that power holding, but the remaining country was under the Hamid Karzai's US-led, some people call it as US puppet government. So from 2004 to almost 2014, for 10 years, under the leadership of Hamid Karzai, with the support of the US, NATO and every country, and including India. So Afghanistan's people, at least their life standard was a little bit, increased, bettered, just a little bit, but it was temporary. Now we know that. So in 2014, for the first time in the history of Afghanistan, sir, very important point, in the September 2014, for the first time in the history of Afghanistan, the US, with the support of the US and all the NATO powers, Afghanistan went for elections, democratic elections. For the first time, people tasted a vote, the power of a vote. They enjoyed the power of vote. For the first time, they elected their own leader throughout the history. Have you ever seen like that? For the first time in September 2014, with the interventions of, with the security offered by all the countries, and especially the NATO forces, the people went for elections. And Ashraf Ghani was an alternative to the Hamid Karzai then. So the power was transferred so peacefully, democratically, through elections from Hamid Karzai to Ashraf Ghani government in September 2014. So once the power was democratically and peacefully transferred, the NATO, so the United Nations withdrew its forces, because everyone thought that now, after already it was 10 years old, the country, so the people are educated, people are a little bit conscious of their national rights, national ideology, and why should we spend a lot of military funding and lot of, they looked after 10 years it as a wastage of money, there additional redundancy, they thought like that. So UN withdrew their security forces as security assistant forces. But NATO also, once the elections were completed, once Ashraf Ghani government was in power, NATO, the United States and the NATO especially, said, they gave a statement that they were in a thought to withdraw complete forces. That was the statement. So once the NATO announced that they were to leave the country, the troops were to leave the country, again these Taliban started, occupying the rural areas, slowly, rural areas. And United States under Trump, if you see, in the February 2020, United States President Trump said that United States forces also to leave Afghanistan. The military troops, every troop would leave Afghanistan by, for some time. He has not given the deadline, but by some time. But if the world community knows, if US troops and NATO troops went out of the Afghanistan, what happens? Again the Afghanistan would fail, government would fail to Taliban. Everyone knew this. So United States President Trump, he had some secret talks with some stakeholders of this Afghanistan in Qatar, that is the Doha. In the Doha, Trump had some secret talks with some of the people. Here, a blunder, maybe it was a strategic move by US, but other sections say this was a historical blunder by US. What was that? They included in talks, actually they had talks with Taliban, but they ignored the Afghan government. Afghan government had not represented at all in the talks. So US desperately want to leave the country because their taxpayers' money was being wasted on the military in Afghanistan. Their lives were on the risk. Their military soldiers' life was on the risk. So they were desperately want to come out of the Afghanistan. But they never cared. US never cared about the Afghan people, their security. And US today says that it is not our primary responsibility to build a nation. It is Afghanistan people's responsibility to build a nation. We have given our support. We have given our support for 10 years. We have trained the US Afghanistan military and everything. We have given weapons. So now it is your turn to fight for your rights. This is what the US says. For some it is right statement. For some it is, if you are a superpower, you should have given the protection. This is opposite statement. So in the Doha talks, once the US started recognizing Taliban as the main stakeholder in Afghanistan, Taliban indirectly, ideologically, they thought themselves as powerful than the Afghan government. So they completely, ignored the Afghan government. Now Taliban stand increased because of the indirect action of the US. Because they recognized Taliban but they ignored the Afghan government. So this act made the Afghan government morally destabilized. They morally lost the war. The soldiers, if the government itself was not ignored by US, which was supporting till now forces, how can they fight against the Taliban? So the morale of the 3 lakh soldiers of Afghanistan government was completely shut because of this ignorance by peace talks. They were not included at all about the talks of Afghanistan. The government was not included in it. So now when Biden has come, he has given the deadline that before August 31st, all the US troops would leave the country. So when the announcement came, in the May, by May, all NATO forces have already left. So almost rural Afghanistan kept under the control of the Taliban. Already it fell. Slowly. Now when the US, this was the last country to leave. So when the US also put a deadline, that is the August 31st, in the first week of August itself, when the last troops are about to leave the country, just only a very small troops were there. So they were about to leave the country. Almost 90% of the troops went before August. So once the last, it was only just a small amount of, to protect the embassies of US. They kept a small last amount of soldiers, last number of soldiers. So they would also leave by August 31st. Then Taliban launched an offensive. You might have seen from August 1st, almost the complete August week, Taliban were just rushing like anything with a lightning speed, and all the provinces and capitals were fell to their gun. Without any fighting, even most of the times, provincial governors surrendered themselves to the Taliban. And on the August 15, if you see, the day independence, we got independence, Afghanistan lost independence, and the Taliban captured, they entered on the 15th August. 14th August itself, Ashraf Ghani was allegedly flee the country. And even the vice president and almost most of the people fled the country, the government head people. And military was surrendered. And on the 15th August, terrorists, or the so-called Taliban, entered into the presidential palace and they assumed the power. On 15th August 2021, the day we got independence, Afghanistan got lost its rights. You might have seen the moment they they surrounded the Kabul city. All the people, most of the Afghan people rushed to the Kabul airport, and from there you might have seen the scenes, the videos, that people were desperately want to come out of the country. They want to flee of their own country. They don't want to be under the rule of Taliban again. The so-called medieval ideologies, the medieval Islamic Sharia interpretations, they believe so. They already experienced for 5 years, so they are not ready to experience it for more one time or for more in the future. So most of them even they risked their life by hanging over to the wings of the aeroplane, by knowing that they will die if they can a person do journey on the by hanging on the wings of the aeroplane. It was a huge erosion of human rights, sir. People want to leave the country. They want to save their own lives. Even they prefer to die by falling down from the aeroplane when it took off, but they don't want to die. I mean, they don't want to see themselves in front of the gun of the violent Taliban. So this is the story of erosion of human rights, and this is the story of ignorance by the world community. The people, see, I have seen some messages that the people are not able to sleep properly, peacefully in Afghanistan. They are not asking for lakhs and crores of rupees or properties or assets. They are just asking a peaceful of meal and a peace to their mind. But that is not today. Women especially, they were again caged inside their doors, inside their burqas. Once the Taliban came to the approach to the Kabul, you might have listened the news that most of the youth who were in t-shirts and jeans, they rushed to their homes and they again took back their traditional clothes of Afghanistan, Osama or like that. That was the fear, that was the terror that people are experiencing. But did you know, the world community till today, this is August 19th, so till today also the world community is silent. All of the countries evacuated their embassies, evacuated their citizens with military operations. Even India also evacuated our embassy and stuff, and even some of the Hindus and Sikhs who stuck there. So this is what happened in what has been happening in the Afghanistan. Sir, please do remember, Afghanistan is not somewhere on another planet. It is just 1500 kilometers from New Delhi. Kabul is 1500 kilometers from New Delhi, sir. The terror and the violence is just 1500 kilometers away. It is not too far. So what happens in future, if you see what are the implications that India may face if Taliban comes to power? First thing is, the human rights of the Taliban people itself will be eroded for sure. Yes, the Taliban are saying they are acting. Actually, they are wolves, but they are showcasing themselves as sheeps. They are saying that we are not old Taliban, we are not bad Taliban, we are good Taliban. We want our country to be free, our country to be independent, and we want ourselves to be ourselves. We don't want some painted ideologies to work here. This is what they are saying. Please respect the Islamic culture, Islamic value. That is only we want. This is what Taliban's version was and version is. Today itself, the first press conference of spokesperson of Taliban has held, and he said that we welcome everybody. We even give education to the people, women especially, so women can work. This is what they are saying, the narrative. But do you believe a medieval ideological political entity who were brainwashed by the Pakistani so-called Islamic madrasas can give a modern and a democratic liberal governance to the people, to the women especially? So first implication on India would be that the so-called peace, Vasudhaika Kutumbam, the philosophy of India would rupture. And the second implication was, as the Taliban encourages terrorism, and this may ideologically an inspiration to most of the jihadis present on the world, everywhere in the world, because they come to power by gun. So everyone tries to come to power by the gun power. So that may lead to a lot of instability everywhere. IS would rise again. IS would rise again. Al-Qaeda, Haqqani network, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, lot many these organizations would rise again with the support of the Taliban and now Pakistan. Both are just near to us and they both are encouraging terrorism. That may have huge spillover effect on Kashmir. Perhaps Article 370 was, it was struck down because of this. They have predicted, Indian government would have predicted this, and they completely took the control of Kashmir. Perhaps that was the reason. They would know that Taliban would come to power, so it may create. So now today, if you see, by scrapping the Article 370, a lot of Indian forces are there in the Jammu and Kashmir. So Indian government, this is a proactive step, perhaps, in my view. So this one is this terrorism, another one is the violation of complete human rights. Now we are living in modern 2021, sir. People should have all their rights. They should, what the sin they have done, the Afghanistan people. But they are not able to fight just 60,000 Talibans. The army was 3 lakh people, but morally they lost. Ideologically Taliban won. People, they don't have a sense of nationhood. There is no nationalism feeling in the Afghan people. That's the reason they are running away from the country, but they are not fighting just 60 to 70,000 people. They are not giving boost to the military. They are not, the leaders, they are just fleeing the country. Yes, there is, on practical, if you say, they are violent Taliban, so that's why they are fleeing to get their, lives on. But, is this we expect from a systemic modern world, modern country? So first, I think people should get together and people should, fight for their own rights, because perhaps then the help will come. If the people themselves start, rising against the Taliban, and if they start making the nation first before making a country. So first they have to be united ideologically, nationalism. If they have to identify themselves as Afghanistan people first. So if that happens, perhaps US will help, perhaps India will help, perhaps other countries will help them to run out the Taliban. Sir, the problem is not Taliban. Yes, everybody have the right to come to power, but the problem is terror. The problem is gun. The problem is erosion of human rights. The problem is harsh interpretation of Sharia law, and the problem is complete ignorance of women's role in the society. This is the problem. The problem is not Taliban. Anybody can, in democracy, everybody has the right to come to power, but the means is important. Through democratic means, one should come to power. So not by gun. That the world community should recognize, and perhaps I hope that the world will pressurize the Taliban government. They would not recognize the Taliban government.